fools. Got that fire inside, we're rising up to shine. This is our time, yeah, we're feeling so divine. Oh, we're thriving, we'll be thriving, bold and free. Women owning midlife, just you wait and see. Dance through the changes with a heart so strong. This is our anthem, come and sing along.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Not Your Mother's Midlife. I'm your host, Johanna. I'm so happy that you're here with me today because I am going to share my recent experience with trying hormone replacement therapy, just dipping my toes in the water. As I've mentioned before, I'm 54 years old and still getting my period every 28 days for now. I hadn't experienced any of the typical menopause symptoms, the well-known ones like hot flushes, abrupt menstrual changes, vaginal dryness, all those ones that we always hear about. But I didn't realize that what I was in fact experiencing were hormonal changes. But I was ignoring them and attributing them to be caused by something else. I'd been actively trying to lose weight. This is going back about 2 years ago. I was actively trying to lose weight. I got to about 170 pounds and I just wanted to back to my fighting weight before I actually went through menopause because I thought it's going to be harder and harder. Okay, I'm saying in pounds. It's 170 and I wanted to get back to 135 pounds. Oh God, I can't convert to kilograms right now. So I'm blanking on that, so I apologize for that. So I lost about 20 pounds, about 9 kilos, I'm thinking. It's about half. And then I hit a plateau. Nothing was shifting. And I still needed to lose about 15 pounds. What wasn't helping me was the extreme fatigue that I was experiencing. I couldn't get past 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon without collapsing on the couch. I was utterly exhausted. So I didn't feel like working out. I felt like snacking more. I just felt like I was just in this rut and I couldn't get out of it, just so tired. Like when you're newly pregnant, that's what I felt like. I knew I wasn't, but just felt like I was just at that exhaustion. And I also started experiencing anxiety attacks again. I've gone through this since I was about 12 years old. Anxiety, panic attacks, right around puberty, which is interesting, like hormonal shift. And that's when it started. And that's also when my migraine started too, which is interesting. Anyway, my depression was getting quite dark too, and I started having suicidal ideations again, as I'd had a few times in my life during stressful periods. But nothing was happening in my life to cause this depression or anxiety. I was also feeling very unmotivated, uninspired, which made me feel lazy. And so I just attributed my emotional issues because of that, thinking, yeah, you feel crappy about yourself because you're a big, fat, lazy, tired oaf. So I was just thinking that was the reason and kind of got irritated with myself. At the same time, I started to notice that my libido wasn't what it usually was. But, like most women, my desires ebb and flow over the course of a month as your hormones fluctuate. But the difference that I began to notice, there was more ebb than flow. I started to feel like it was a chore. I know we've all been, or most women I know have been there, and it can feel like a chore, but this was happening more often than it wasn't. And I bristle. I had that's what I like to call it. I would bristle when my husband would hug me as I felt like I had a job to do and resented it. And I felt like I was almost trying to avoid him, thinking, gosh, if I sit too close, if I grab his leg or something, it's going to be like, ooh, okay. And I really just didn't feel like it. And I felt awful having these thoughts and feelings. I didn't want to feel that way. I wanted to feel how I used to feel. But I couldn't work it out. I just couldn't shift it. And during this time, my poor husband thought it was something there was something wrong with him, something that had to do with him. He thought that I wasn't attracted to him, or I don't know. He was just so confused. I mean, we weren't talking about it. We weren't discussing it at this time. I felt terribly embarrassed and uncomfortable sharing my feelings about this, or rather my lack of feelings. I had this feeling like, gosh, what's going on with me? There's something wrong. And I didn't talk to him about it. And I loved my husband so much. We're the best of friends. But this is just too strange and personal to share. And we share everything. That's why it was just like another odd thing. But I felt embarrassed, like he was going to judge me and just think, yep, there she goes. It's starting. She's drying up. I'm going to put her out to pasture. Like my fear was coming true. I was so afraid it would make him love me less or find me less attractive. So I just kept it to myself. But when we were intimate, I was absolutely fine. Everything was just as it always had been. There was no difference whatsoever. It's just that I'd never had it on my mind. It was never I was never thinking about it. It was becoming quite an issue in our relationship. He thought that I wasn't interested in him. He was trying extra hard to get my attention, basically, and to be intimate. So he was like pushing more, and I was pulling away more. It was just like this cat and mouse thing. It was just very irritating and very confusing. It was such a mess. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like so embarrassing even sharing this with everyone, that I'm sharing it because I think other people might be thinking right now, I'm going through that and it might help you, or I have been through that, or maybe you will go through that and it won't be, you'll like know where to go. You won't like just sit in your own head and get depressed and anxious like I was. So on I go to explain more. If only we'd both just sat down and like talked about our feelings, it would have been so different, just to communicate. That's why I think it's so important to communicate with your partner, the older you get. Because we usually communicate so well, but for some reason, not during this period. It was me holding back the conversation because I was embarrassed and felt so different. And that scared me because I didn't want this to continue, and I can see how it could continue and become a problem in relationships. I started questioning myself, thinking, gosh, maybe I'm just no longer in love with him. And then I thought, no, that's absolutely not true, as I am in love with him and I find him attractive. So I thought, okay, it has to be me. When we had sex, it was incredible, like it had always been. It's just nothing that was actually forefront in my mind. I wasn't thinking about it, didn't desire it. I've always been listening to podcasts, but for years it's usually, true crime, fitness, politics, ghost stories, etc. But I started leaning more towards health, especially women's health. That's where I was being drawn to. I began to realize that what I've been experiencing might be hormonally related. Surprise, surprise. I don't know why it took me that long for it to hit me. And while listening to one of my favorite podcasts hosted by Shailene Johnson, I learned about Midi Health that I've talked about before. I'll include the link in the show notes, also the podcast, that episode that I listened to below. Okay, back to my marriage. One day, I broke down crying, and I told my husband how I'd been feeling. I felt so awkward and embarrassed and scared. He felt relieved and happy to finally know what was going on. I told him I had an appointment scheduled to talk about everything I've been going through, and it was just so relieving to finally discuss it. And I wish I'd done it sooner, because the look on his face of like, oh, it's okay, that's okay, we can fix this. I'm just happy it's nothing to do with me and you still love me. So then, okay, we had a hug and it was just like really nice. I'm like, gosh, if I would have done this sooner. Because he's such a helpful person. He would have helped me find an appointment somewhere. Anyway, so my next step was to get onto Midi Health. I've talked about this before, but I'll go through it again. I signed up, answered a bunch of questions regarding my health and concerns. This isn't an ad for Midi Health, by the way. This is just like how I found help, because I'd gone previously to a doctor and my gyno, and they're like, well, if you're not having hot flashes, etc., etc., we won't talk about anything, the hormones or anything like that until that happens. And so I just shut up about anything, those questions. So that's why I'm talking about Midi Health, because this is a place that actually really did help me. So if you need to have some third way to talk to somebody other than just your GP and your gyno. So I signed up, answered a bunch of questions regarding my health and concerns, and scheduled an appointment. As the appointment day drew closer, I started to compile a list of questions that I had. I didn't want to forget to ask any. The appointment was really easy. I honestly felt more comfortable and relaxed than I do in my usual gyno appointment. And I felt less rushed too. Amy, who was the woman I was speaking to, was so lovely. I told her my story and how I'd been feeling. And then she began to inquire about other parts of my life. How was I sleeping? Well, now I thought about it. I had been waking up every night at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't turn my brain off, thinking random thoughts or singing the same freaking song over and over and over in my head, to the point where I felt like I was going to go insane. So I told her about my daily fatigue also, and my anxiety and depression. Amy said everything I was experiencing could be because of hormones. I had no idea. I just thought that I was anxious because I was being so lazy or this or that. I thought the only thing was my libido that I needed help with. But she was like, everything I've been experiencing sounds like your hormones are dipping, like getting too much, too little, all over the place. It just felt so good, like, oh gosh, now it all makes sense. So we finished the conversation and consultation, both. with Amy. And she sent an order to my local blood diagnostic center to check my iron and hormone levels. And the results showed that my testosterone was a little low, which because of the libido and also the fatigue. So that was interesting. So that was a little low, as was my progesterone. And Amy explained that the results could be much different. If I would have had them a different time of the month, different time of the day, an alternate month compared to that, it might always show difference. Like maybe my progesterone will be fine the next month and maybe my estrogens are low. She said they're all over the place. And so it's better, she said, to right now treat the symptoms instead of the hormone levels. So what I was feeling, my fatigue, my brain like going off crazy at night, she said, let's do some really low dose, microdose, I think they call it, progesterone pill at night to help calm my brain. Because remember, that's progesterone is the one that calms us down. So to calm my brain and help me sleep at night. And that's going to make me less fatigued during the day and also help with my anxiety and depression, etc. And as well as that, she gave me a very low dose of estradiol gel to put on my leg, just to balance that out, and also some testosterone gel just to put on my thigh. She also suggested, this is the funny one, the estradiol, it's just 0.01% vaginal cream. Wait for it. It was for my face, not for my vag. I didn't need it for the nether regions, as I wasn't experiencing any of those symptoms of the dryness or pain, etc. But what it does for the delicate skin down there, it can also do for your chest, neck, and face. It thickens the skin up and plumps it all up. So I said, yes, please, I'll try that. And I got that the prescription from her. But you can also, like I said before, Midi, if you go down and click the link, you can order all these creams and all that. And they do the hormone replacements and everything on that website. You just speak to the doctor and they can give you that. You can buy it from there. Anyway, I took one dose of the progesterone and I felt a difference. That night, I slept like a baby and my brain was calm. It was absolutely wonderful. I could have cried the next morning. My anxiety and depression also started to fade away a little more slowly, but they started to fade away. And I know my anxiety immediately went down because I wasn't so worried about all these other things going on in my life, the libido and the exhaustion and the not being able to sleep, etc. So that was probably also why that went down, as well as the progesterone. I was feeling happier and calmer, and the testosterone, it took a few more weeks to really kick in and for me to feel a difference. But once it did kick in, it was amazing. All of a sudden, I felt like my old self again. I had energy and I was motivated and I was happy. And once again, I didn't bristle seeing my poor husband walk my way. Poor thing. He'd walk into the room before and I'd just be like, here he comes. I could just tell, okay, ladies out there, you can tell the way they're walking towards you even. And usually that wouldn't bother me, but I was bristling. But now I wasn't. I met him with open arms. I won't go into any details about that because it's not that sort of a podcast. Thanks for listening. If you're experiencing something similar, let me know or leave a comment. If you know someone who is experiencing these symptoms, please share this episode with them. Maybe you're a man whose partner is going through something similar, or you're a woman experiencing the same thing and can't find the words to explain it or to start that conversation with your partner. Just share this episode, and that can be a conversation starter. Subscribe to the podcast and my YouTube channel. You'll find all the links in the show notes. And until next week, I'm Johanna Hart, and this is not your mother's midlife. Bye.